Good morning, my friends. I'm here with one of our old favorites. She's not old. She's just been here a long time.
Thanks, Mark.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. You guys know Alyssa. She runs one of our big training teams, and she's going to talk today about outcomes because you're all going back to school and you're thinking, what on earth am I supposed to do? Alyssa's about to teach you. No further ado. Let's get this going. Alyssa, take it over.
Awesome. All right. So Mark's going to share my screen for us. And I'm actually going to talk about outcomes with a twist a little bit because we are very familiar with outcomes as state standards. And, you know, I can go into my outcome list if I'm in my course, right? I can go into outcomes and I can, you know, go up to find, and then I can find in my account standards. And I mean, you can see that mine are really fun. And I've got Utah state standards built in. I taught in Utah for 10 years. I live in Tennessee right now. But I can come in and grab, you know, any of the K12 state standards and come in. For my higher ed friends, very often programs are going to build their own outcomes and bring those outcomes in and gather that data. And so there's a lot of great information in the Canvas community about, you know, the value of data. But what I want to talk to specifically today is what do you do, especially for my K12 friends, if you have a course like, let's say, AP World History, which I taught for 5 years. Let's say you have a course like AP World History or an International Baccalaureate course or just a class that is not included on state standards, but you still want to take advantage of that information. So I'm going to speak from the lens of an advanced placement history class today. But I invite anybody to think about how this, we'll say it's non-traditional or customized outcomes setup can do, and just some of the things that it can add. So again, I'm going to speak from the AP history side and kind of thinking about that idea of what I could do with an advanced placement class and how I could use outcomes in my own course to get me data. Because the other thing, yes, sir.
Before you start, I think some people are probably wondering, did she really teach AP history? So we're going to do something fun here, everybody.
Okay.
I want to know, Jackie, what happened that was important in history in the year 1949? Go ahead.
19. Well, first of all, Mark, it's Alyssa, not Jackie.
Oh my gosh, because Jackie just barely commented saying, Alyssa, Jackie, you're in trouble. Don't ever do that again.
Well, in 1949, you're getting the fallout of World War II and the rise of the Cold War. And if you want me to go,
that. Okay, no, we'll take that. I was just checking to make sure.
Because my background's in Russian history and Soviet history, so if we want to get really fun into the Cold War history stuff, like I'm your girl.
No, we got to just keep going with outcomes. Jackie, you're in trouble. You'll be getting a note from me.
Uh-oh.
Not you, Jackie. Alyssa, you're Alyssa. Back to Jackie.
I thought you were talking to Jackie in the chat window. Okay, so here's some of the fun things that I want you to think about where I need data, right? It's not a state standard, but I sat in faculty meetings all the time and constantly heard, we need data, we need data, we need data. And don't get me started on things like new analytics and all the really amazing things. The new analytics and all the really cool things that Canvas can do to get you data. But if I taught AP World History, I needed good data to help guide my teaching. So for example, I can use, and in an outcome, I can go into grades and I can see my Learning Mastery gradebook. So I'm just going to give you a hint of where we're going with this. So why you should do it. So what I did is I created writing outcomes for each of the elements of the AP writing rubric. And this really helped me a lot. I attended what we like to call Nerd Fest. So Mark, I even graded the AP World History essays. I scored AP World History essays. And we called that Nerd Fest every year. So all the world history nerds would get together and be really nerdy for a solid week. It was glorious.
Hey, teachers, I feel like Alyssa's trying to prove that she actually did teach. So go ahead in the comments. I want to know who you are, but I also want you to ask any important history questions that you need answers for.
No trivia.
Okay, keep going.
All right. Now I feel like I'm on there. I keep raising your hand and asking the abstract question. Okay, so here I am. I'm scoring people's history essays and noticing all these patterns and thinking, I want to teach my students that, and I want to make sure my students are doing it. So what if you could get that kind of data immediately? So what I did is I built outcomes based off of the AP rubrics that teach for my class. So I've got the AP World History ones. If you teach AP English, I know you have specific rubrics that your students need to follow, and math, science, for your short answer questions, there are rubrics that we use to help our students be successful. So notice I'm here in my Learning Mastery gradebook with some of my Avenger students, if you can't pick up on my theme for my fake class as a Canvas trainer. And let's see where my students are. So these are, again, these are outcomes and standards that I didn't get from the state. I didn't get from anyone else. I built them for my use. And so the data is valuable to me. No one in the district is pulling this data. This data is helpful to me. So I can quickly come into my Learning Mastery gradebook, and I can see here for my thesis, if I'm getting ready to teach another essay, my students are doing theses pretty well. I might need to do some work with Rocket and James Rhodes, but other than that, my students are getting a hold of thesis. So what am I going to do is I prep them for the next essay. I'm going to take some time and I'm going to focus on the next point of teaching contextualization. Or I might even come all the way down here and say, wow, okay, we've got a little more work to do on getting evidence and helping my students get evidence into their essays. And so I'm going to use these outcomes to get a very quick snapshot of how each of my students are doing on each of the elements of this AP essay. So how do I do that? How do I get this data in, and how do I start to build these ideas? So there's a couple ways you can do it. If you go into your course and you go to outcomes, you can build all of these outcomes step by step by step, okay? And for my AP World History, my AP History teachers, I'm going to give you a present in this session. For all of my other AP friends or anybody else in a specialized course, you don't get the same present, but you have that same idea. And so I could come in here and build myself an outcome. I'm going to use my AP standards. And so call it, whatever section of the outcome it is, whatever the learning, whatever the rubric point that you're going for is. I even took the language straight from College Board, and I put the language right here to help me and my students understand. And then I built my own criterion ranges, and I set all of the data up using outcomes that I wanted and I needed. And I'll show you how I built mine in a second. But you can build your custom outcomes and have these available. Now, just like any outcome, so if you take my present, if my AP Social Studies teachers are out there and you accept my gift that I'm going to give you, you can come in and see that I have all of the document-based questions points built in. And so here's the complex understanding and exactly what College Board says. And I even put a link in here to the actual AP rubric information just to help my students or myself to reference it and to know where it is. And then what I built for my point values is I just did a 3-2-1 scale. And I'm going to show you a couple tricks with building these rubrics and the varieties that you can do. And so 3 to me is like, this kid knocked it out of the park. They understand it. That's, they're above and beyond. I set meet expectations. And so I have mastery set at 2 points. To me, if that student is hitting that point, they're getting the point from an AP reader. And so I used my experience. I use my experience as an AP reader to understand, to go for, this is what probably would get you a point in the final AP test. And then emerging is, I can see you're getting there. I can see you started it. We have a couple things to do to add. So I can get all that whole scale from my students all the way down to does not meet expectations. And so as you build these outcomes, or you steal mine if you're an AP history teacher, use College Board and you can copy and paste and put that information in there. So you're teaching your students exactly what they need or what College Board requires. Or let's be honest, this could be an International Baccalaureate class, or you could do this for a CTE course where that CTE course doesn't have, they don't have the state standards, but you have the CTE course standards that you want to build out. So this same pattern applies anywhere where there's not state standards for a K12 course. All right, so you built your outcomes. What do I do then? So what we're going to do is you need a way to assess these outcomes. And I'm going to do that with a rubric. And so I'm going to build this outcome. I'm going to come in and you can see that I've got my LAQ rubric here, and I'll show you how to build it. But let's just preview this rubric real quick. So if I come in and I can build my rubric, notice that I've got it linked to an outcome, and then those points that I built in the outcome or those criterion ratings are right here. And then this is actually an 18-point rubric. So I have, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. And I can now gather data from all of this. But here's a cool trick. So let me actually go back to rubrics, and I'm going to build a fresh rubric so you can see me do a couple of the different things that you can do with rubrics. And as long as my internet catches up with me. Okay, so I'm going to I'm in my rubrics option, and I'm going to come to add rubric, and I'm going to name this my DBQ rubric. So I'm going to build my rubric for my document-based questions. So as any rubric canvas, I can build and customize my rubric. So right here, I could do my criterion. I could, whatever I'm teaching, this is where I could build that criterion out. So you can build your own rubric for how you want to score your essays for your students and how you want those points to go into your Canvas gradebook. Or you can come here, find an outcome, and I'm going to find my AP Social Studies folder, or however you organize. We're going to go into documents-based questions, and I'm going to start with the point A. So my thesis claim. Now, here's the fun thing. Sometimes especially early in a year, I would give essays, but I would grade them more for completion and try and have a holistic grade, because I didn't want my students to feel disheartened or just punched in the face. Because how often as an AP teacher did I give a 0 or a 1 on an essay out of 7 points to students? And it's hard to hand these back. I also taught in a refugee community, and so 50% of my students spoke English as their second language in an advanced placement class. And it wasn't just one language. There was 57 different languages represented in our school. So, you can imagine that there are times where I'm giving very low AP rubric scores to my students. So you can build your rubric out holistically, and then check this option out. I could use the rubric and the outcomes that I've built and only collect data. So, which means I could build the AP rubric and collect the data and give the feedback to my students, but give them points in a different way. So give them 10 points for completing it, or 30 point, however you're choosing to score essays, and still fill out the AP rubric and still gather the data to guide your instruction. All you'd have to do is turn that little button off when you're adding the outcome. And so when I import, you'll notice that this is still a 5-point rubric, even though this outcome is 3 points. So you have 2 ways that you can add outcomes. You can add an outcome to give points to the student and to provide a score on the rubric, or you could just use this to gather data and then use that data to inform your teaching. And so once you have these outcomes in, it's going to be your choice and your decision on how you use them for points for scoring, but you can always attach them to a rubric for data. And so I'll go back, let's find another outcome. We'll grab contextualization, and then I'm going to do this one, and we'll add it on. And again, let's we'll do a participation rubric. And so this one will be, earnest effort. And I wanted to see earnest effort from my students. We'll turn this on as a range. And so I'll give them a 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. This is like a participation, but I still want to get a baseline of data of where they are. So this is the section that's going to give them points. These rows are just going to gather data. And maybe in the first essay, all I'm worried about is gathering these 3 elements. And these are the elements I've asked my students to focus on. So tons of flexibility for how you do rubrics, how you deploy them, how you engage. So it's not a one size fits all, but the data is going to be there. So then what do I do next? I have my rubric. I've created my rubric. I'm going to go into my assignments, and I'm going to create my assignment. And so I have this template right here that I built for a long essay question. And this is going to be part of that present I'm going to make available to everybody. But I've got my assignment overview. This is something that can customize. I used to give my students the prompt ahead of time and said, okay, work on your notes at home. We're going to prepare. Then in class, we are going to write our essay. Fun fact, especially in the COVID environment, you could still have your students write their AP assignments on paper and then use their mobile devices to scan them in the PDF and submit them. So you could still do handwritten assignments, which is pretty important for the AP test, assuming that we're going to go back to normal on the AP test this coming year. But you could have your students write the essays and scan them to you, and then you provide feedback digitally. And this is also a great thing. I did it anyway. I did it long before COVID. I had my students scan because then I had a digital copy and I didn't have all the paper going all over the place. But give your assignment overview. I gave some guidelines to my students, and I also provided some technical support. But ultimately, I'm going to attach my rubric. So this is my LEQ rubric. Attach this rubric to the assignment. And then as I grade for my students, let me come back out here to an assignment where I had my fakes to submit. As I grade, as it loads, come on. As I provide feedback, I'm going to come in here to SpeedGrader. I can see the essay that my students submitted, and I just grabbed one of the sample ones from College Board to use as an example. But you can use all of the feedback tools here in SpeedGrader, including if you have the app or a touch screen and a stylus. And then all I did was grade on the rubric, provided comments and feedback, let my students know how they were doing, provided the grade, and I submitted it. Oh, another fun thing. I almost forgot. Mark, why didn't you remind me of all the things that I didn't tell you about before we started this? I want to point one more thing out.
I'm still mad. I'm still mad at you for getting your answer wrong at the beginning.
I know. Well, we can work through it, friend. I'm sure we can. All right, one more cool thing I want to point out about rubrics that you can do with rubrics. Remember that I built this to have 3 points is extra credit, like above and beyond. That's, my student is absolutely knocking this thesis out of the park. Like I want to highlight how good they're doing. So I have that little extra credit piece here, and full credit for me is meets expectations. You're going to get the point. So this is an 18-point rubric, and my assignment is out of 12. So you can build these rubrics and have the rubric be out of 18 points, but have your assignment be out of 12. And this is something you could do even outside of this use case. You can always have your rubrics. And what Canvas is going to do when you check the use this assignment or use this rubric for assignment grading, and you hit update, notice that Canvas warns you. It says, hey, Alyssa, the assignment is 12 points, the rubric's 18 points, which means if you give somebody 18 points, that's 150% for that student. I'm doing it on purpose. I'm doing it with the intention that it will be a rare instance that a student gets a 3. Most of my students are aiming for that 2, so I'm expecting them to be in that 2-1 range. And so I'm going to tell Canvas, go ahead and leave it different. So I can still gather that data of the kids that are knocking it out of the park, the students that are meeting my expectations, the students that are getting close, and the students that we still need to refocus on the point in place. So you can take your outcomes and use them. So do you think we're ready for the gift I want to give everybody, Mark? Or are there questions coming up that would be helpful for me to answer before we talk about my present?
Gift away. Gift away.
All right. Okay, here it is. We're going to come in, and I have actually, not home. Yep, here it is. I have actually put a module together that has my long essay question template that I was just showing you with the rubric attached for a long essay question. I have a link to a blog post I wrote a year ago, thinking of my AP teacher colleagues and wanting to share what I would do with Canvas. And so that's a link to the blog post that has basically everything that I just shared with you written in blog post form. I've also linked in a CSV document that already has the AP writing rubrics for history already built in. So all a teacher would have to do was take this CSV file, go into their outcomes and import, and then drag that CSV file right into here, and it's going to drop all of the AP history outcomes right into their into their account. And so they will be able, for my AP history friends, sorry English and everybody else, I don't have the expertise to build out yours, but I built out my outcomes that I took right from College Board so that you can use these with data. And just for reference, I've included the PDF of the AP History's rubrics straight from College Board. And where is it? I have already shared this up to the Commons. So if you go into your Commons and you type in AP History's writing template, you're going to see something, or you could probably even just type in my name, but you're going to see something from our Canvas Live event that will allow you to open this up, to preview the resources that I've made available for you, and then import and download them right into your AP history course that you're preparing for your students. So there's the fun.
Woo! I feel like Canvas confetti should be showering down or something right now.
You know, Canvas confetti is one of my favorite things. And so I need more places in Canvas for that confetti to come in.
Amen to that.
So I'm open for any questions.
Yeah, if there's, it's not very often we get Alyssa on here. If you guys knew what her backlog right now on training was, you'd say, what is she doing here? She's just a rock star like that. That's what she is.
Well, I just want to think it, because teachers are stressed out, and we get that. I know it, and the training team, Instructure employs, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but we employ more educators than any other learning management system, if I can brag a little bit about us. And so we know on the training team, we're in the trenches with everybody, and we know teachers are stressed out. And for me, this kind of a trick just to help, especially AP teachers or teachers that are, need data or want to be able to access students, especially if they're doing distance learning and can't engage with them on a daily basis and really get to know their students as quickly. Something as simple as data to help a teacher see what they can do and how they can work with other people, and how they can intervene, even just for interventions, how they're able to intervene with students and reach out and tailor their instruction for what students really need. To me, this lifted a huge burden off my shoulders before COVID as a classroom teacher. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody could have a little introduction to it.
Melissa, our good friend Andre, how are you, my friend? He's here with us often. He says it's magic. That's exactly what this is that you just did for us.
I agree, and I hope people can grab that resource. Share with other teachers. And again, go ahead and grab it. You could even use my CSV file template and see how I built it for AP Histories, and adjust and insert your own information and insert your own, and then use that import. So I hope that tool can be really helpful. So even if you're not an AP Histories teacher, the same principles will apply and help out any AP teacher, National Baccalaureate, or any curriculum that does not have a direct state standards, but where data or performance standards could really help teachers target and help and support their students, especially with distance learning during COVID.
Everyone, I know we had some concerns at the beginning if Alyssa really had taught AP history, but as you know, I ran her through a very rigorous process of better understanding if she was really qualified for it. And she also just used the word baccalaureate correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, she is 100% an AP teacher. She has the skills and the chops. Reporting now. Good job.
I even know the code nickname for when AP graders get all the world history graders get together in Kansas City and grade stuff and score essays. Call it Nerd Fest, because that's what we are.
Nerd Fest. So tell us once again, Alyssa, before we end, where is it that people can find this resource? And for any that just joined us, what is the resource you're giving away for free?
So in the Canvas Commons, I have built a template or a module template that has both my long essay question assignment instructions set up, that both has how I put my assignments together, some ideas about how you could encourage your students to use, their third appendage over here, to scan their essays, still do things by hand, whether you're face-to-face. I do have a colleague that's terrified. She's back face-to-face, and she's really worried about an asymptomatic student coming, touching their piece of paper, handing it into her. And I showed her the trick about, hey, have your students use their phones to scan it as a PDF and then submit it through the app. And then you have completely paperless. So there's not that transmission idea. But I did it before COVID, and it's fantastic. But having students maybe scan or submit essays to you, whatever's going to work best in your classroom. I have a rubric attached to that. I have a CSV file of the AP History's writing rubric points that you can import right into your Canvas course as just as a CSV file upload, and just a couple other resources to give you a good idea and get you started using outcomes and customizing outcomes for your course where maybe the K12 state standards don't fit. So, and it's in the Canvas Commons. That's right. It is in the Canvas Commons.
And looks like some people have already found it. Tamiko is importing it now and is saying that she's going to share it with her teachers. Everybody, this is a free resource. No dollars will be exchanged for this. You don't have to pay Alyssa for the past 26 minutes and 20 seconds if she's been on the stream. She is a wealth of knowledge. We're going to ask her one more question, and then we're going to let her go. Alyssa, being a history queen that you are, what flag is this?
Oh,
Yep.
I don't know.
That's what I thought, everyone. There are questions again as to if she really was.
You're wearing military code flags that send messages to each other, correct?
I actually don't know the answer to that, so we're going to go ahead and give her 100% on that quiz. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We are back tomorrow morning. We're actually doing one on Google. You know about the new Google LTI, Google Assignments LTI, at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And then 10:30, we're with one of our awesome educators, Patricia Flores from Frisco ISD in Texas. With that, we're signing off. Thanks again. Go check out Alyssa's fantastic resources on the Canvas Commons. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.